Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I wanted to go over signs that you are an attractive man, even if you don't realize it or you might deny it. I made a video like this before, but obviously, there are so much more points in the research that I wanted to make a follow up video. Plus, a lot of you guys were asking, okay? The very first one I thought was interesting because a lot of people perceive this as just if it's a female participant in the research or individual. However, we can also see this with the male, where the male is the recipient of this behavior. So others actually behave more generously or allocate more resources to an attractive male. This research was done in 2024. I don't know if you guys all have access to it. I do. But I think it's really interesting. And I'll explain the research in case you guys don't have access to it so you know what I'm talking about, okay? So basically, the way the research went is we were seeing the influences of a male's face based on, first of all, if he was rated attractive or not, also his vocal attractiveness, which I thought was interesting, and also social interest from a female's perspective. And then from there, they noticed, or we measured, if others behave more generously towards those individuals who score higher, or if he allocates more resources based on female participants. Okay. Now, I thought that was very interesting because it's not just about attractiveness, but also when we said the word social interest, it's also somebody who said, basically they like this person or they would like to be in a relationship with them. And that actually amplified the generosity even more. That was the most amplifying factor. So the best way to put it is if you're attractive, individuals tend to be more generous towards you. They tend to allocate more resources towards you. And if they like you, that's even more amplified. I think people kind of do know that, but it is very interesting that that was documented in research. I'm sure there's plenty, but that one was kind of cool. The next one, which I have noticed this a lot, I just did not really know how to word it. Basically, the second point here for if you are an attractive man, you will actually notice that people have higher expectations of you. So actually, higher expectations of your generosity. And there's almost like a social reward. I don't know how to put it. Like you get rewarded more for being generous as well. So you're expected to be more generous and more giving and more kind, but then you're also rewarded more for doing so. So this study was done, it's a little older. I know some of you guys don't like older research. If you watch my videos, I'm a fan of both types of research, newer and older, because sometimes I feel like older research has, less hands being put into that research, or sometimes it feels less biased. I could be wrong, but if you guys are reading research, you probably know what I'm talking about. This study had about 300 participants, a little less. Basically, we saw that people who are attractive, they tend to have higher expectations placed on them, and then once they do those expectations, they are rewarded more obviously. So people might actually also perceive you as more generous, even if you did less generous things, as long as that expectation was placed onto you prior. So if someone says, I expect you to, I don't know, you're an attractive male, and they're like, oh, I expect you to be a generous person, or you seem very kind to children, whatever that is. And maybe you're not the best fan of kids, but once you're just a little bit kind to a child, they'll be like, oh my God, look at you. He's such a kind person, whatever it is. That's a really common example too, actually, the parental type of behaviors. The next one is, it's not physical attractiveness, but this was put in the research based on like dominance and competence signaling. This research was done in 2011. And basically, if you are a person who tends to be more decisive with decisions, this tends to be a very attractive trait, probably for both genders, but particularly for males. You tend to take initiative in social situations. You're good at making decisions, and you're confidently able to organize plans that signal, like we were talking about, competence and dominance. The belief from this perspective, if you kind of look into the research or in general, from a biological perspective and evolutionary psychology perspective, this is just, it helps individuals to allocate healthier relationships because they're able to lead it and get the benefits that they expect. So if you're more assertive, you're going to tend to get whatever you're looking for. And that also displays leadership qualities. So you can be like a leader of your family, whatever it is. And that was associated with higher mating success. So partnership, long-term partnership, and mating partnerships, if that makes sense. The next one was very specific, but it is probably one of my favorite points just because I feel like a lot of people don't realize how rare this is. But I am a therapist, and so this is not common at all in my, like, when I'm working with couples. So maybe it is more common than I realize. I could be very biased. But if you maintain composure and are emotionally steady under pressure or arguments, this increases self-regulation, which is linked to higher romantic desirability. You can probably imagine why. Research was 1999, but there's other newer research about this. Actually, this is a common place that's researched a lot, so you guys can look at it. I like this one. But if you maintain composure and are emotionally steady, this is actually very attractive. And I think another thing that's really cool about this one is it's not something that, like, I feel like anybody can do this or learn this. Basically, it signals emotional maturity and psychological strength, but it also signals some form of dominance and assertive behaviors because it allows you to feel like, typically, this is a precursor of, if you can maintain emotional steady under pressure or during arguments, you can also find solutions very quickly in comparison. This also can help with analytical thinking, depending. And so this is why this in particular is attractive. It has so many variables, which is the reason I found it really interesting, okay? It also is lower levels of being neurotic, right? In psychology, we kind of look at things from that perspective, especially if you're a psychoanalyst such as myself. This can be very attractive in relationships. And it's just a healthy quality typically because you have self-regulation. The next one is, I think this one's going to be a little annoying, but it's true. If you are a person, which you'll probably know if you have this one, you tend to get more praise even when you aren't trying your best. Even if you don't feel like it is that great, you still get like more praise just because, unfortunately, because you're attractive. This research is done in 2023. Physical attractiveness does unfortunately receive more praise generally, even if it's kind of low effort type of things. I do feel like a lot of people know this. And if this is you, you probably feel a little guilty or uncomfortable about this, or you might not know where it's coming from. So I don't mean to like offend or trigger you or say you're not trying your best. It just, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not doing the absolute best that you can do, or you feel like maybe your effort wasn't even that great, but still everyone's praising you just for possibly even doing the bare minimum, excuse me for that language, likely it's because you're attractive. I know it's a strange thing, but it is reality. And that's pretty much what I wanted to cover, but I do want to mention the research is in the description box. If anyone's curious about it, it is in there. The other thing is a lot of these points are just based on the research that I'm looking at. In terms of research, some things conflict. A lot of you guys kind of look into research. There'll be one research that has one point and another one that has another. So I'm just giving you my perspective. Please take everything I say with a grain of salt. Please like, subscribe. I will see you in the next one.